This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Rise up! Team Rise! Rise up! Team Rise!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, USA Today's NFL Wire site that, of course, covers your Arizona Cardinals. And we continue with our series, as we do every summer, the opponent preview series, where we have a show dedicated to each of the Cardinals' upcoming opponents for the coming season, bring on a lead writer / podcaster from that team. And this show is dedicated to the Cardinals' Week 12 opponent at home at State Farm Stadium as the Washington Commanders come to town. And joining us again on the show after they faced each other a couple of years ago, Bryan Manning, who is the lead writing over to Commanders Wire. Bryan, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you on. As always, it's a pleasure to talk to you again this summer.
Thanks, Jess. It's always good to join with you, and hopefully our teams will do better in 2026.
I think your team has a little bit more hope than my team based on just the status of the team. Obviously, last season was a difficult one for the Commanders, coming off a playoff run, a playoff win, looking great with Jayden Daniels. Injuries hit. He misses time. He misses about half the season. The defense isn't good. They finished 5-12. At least they were better than the Giants. What went wrong last year, and were there any bright spots?
Well, let's see what went wrong. Okay, so everything that went right in 2024, it reversed in 2025. The injury luck was phenomenal in 2024. All the older veterans they signed contributed in 2024. So fast forward 25, they just had to run it back versus going heavy in free agency. They made a couple of big trades. They traded for Laramie Tunsil. They traded for Deebo Samuel. And then of course, all the other guys their injuries were brutal, but I'm not going to blame it all on injuries. I think the warts were there for the defense before, because in 2024, Jayden Daniels bailed everybody out. Him and Terry McLaurin bailed everybody out in 2024. And then last year, you lose Jayden Daniels. And then when he does play, he's not confident because he's throwing to a bunch of practice squad receivers because they didn't adequately address the receiver position last offseason. And Terry McLaurin and him only appeared in – this is crazy. They only appeared in 2 games together last year, and they didn't play a complete game. They played in week 1. That was the only complete game they played. So that was a huge factor for the offense. And, and I know we're gonna get to this later, but it's almost like Kliff Kingsbury. Kliff Kingsbury did a good job despite what he was dealing with last year, but – we'll get more into the change later, but yeah, everything that went wrong with the defense. You look at the rankings last year, and the defense was near the bottom and everything. But I have a hard time believing anybody was worse, because you could.
I'll make an argument that the Cardinals were worse, especially in the back half of the season.
Well, you could run on the Commanders. You could pass on the Commanders. If it was 3rd and 26, you could get 29 yards.
I wonder if the Cardinals and Commanders had played late last year, who would have won that game?
Cardinals. The Cardinals would have won because, yeah. And then you got you got they couldn't rush the pass, or they could not force turnovers. I mean, Von Miller led them in 9 sacks, and it was the least impressive 9-sack season I've seen in my life. And that's no offense to Von Miller, but I get kind of tired of hearing about Von Miller talking about replaying his choices he made last summer about who he signed with, because he had numbers, but he wasn't good. Nobody on that defense was good last year. And then we fast forward and then to the coaching changes. I'm sure you want to get into the coaching changes.
Yeah, so let's do that. Coming up next on the Rise of Sears podcast, Special Cardinals Talk. Let's move on and look at the offseason moves, changing coaching, and free agency in the draft. That's coming up next on the Rise of Sears.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
We're back on the Rise of Sears podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web, as we look ahead to the offseason for the Washington Commanders. Dan Quinn remains head coach, but they made some significant changes. So Kliff Kingsbury is gone. Now an offensive assistant for the LA Rams. I think he's looking to get some of that McVay magic on him for the next coaching cycle. What led to that? Because it was it more being pushed, or was he kind of done in Washington too? Did he get kind of antsy himself?
I think he would have came back had they not kind of forced the hand. And I think once they met with him, they were done with him late in the season. The running game, I think, was a little bit. I'm not so quick to blame Kliff as I am to blame, you knew what you were getting into when you hired him with the style of offense he runs. I think what they see in Jayden Daniels is they see a more complete quarterback, and they see that offense is more of a gimmick, and they wanted to see Jayden under center more. They wanted to see more. There was no play action with Kliff. There was. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. There was no play action with Kliff. There was no pre-snap movement. There was no Terry McLaurin played one side exclusively. They never moved him around to take advantage of him. It was just, and they were fat. The running game was. They were tired of Jayden running the ball, getting hurt. So I think it was more of a, by late in the season, they were already moving on.
They also made changes at defensive coordinator. Was Joe Whitt and Dan Quinn. Now this year they move on to Durante Jones. What led to that move?
Joe Whitt, I don't think he was a good defensive coordinator by any means, but he didn't have a lot to work with. But some of the decisions he did make and the player, and I think when you look at Joe Whitt, you look at the players who regressed in 2024. Quan Martin and Mike Sanders were in their second and first years respectively, and they were really good. Frankie Louvu was his first year with Washington as coming over as a free agent. They were all excellent. They all regressed badly last year. And Joe Whitt coached defensive backs, so you wonder why these young defensive backs are taking such a major step back. That didn't help him. And then when Dan Quinn took over, there was a slight improvement in the play calling, and Joe Whitt was done by week 8. Whether he knew it, I'm sure he knew it all along. But then they brought in Durante Jones, who was very highly regarded, and he's going to run. They really were fascinated by what the Brian Flores and the Vikings run there in Minnesota, and Durante Jones interviewed with multiple teams this offseason, so they were very meticulous in the interview process and came away with him. So I think there's a lot of excitement there.
And then David Blau, a guy that the Cardinals know quite well for his last season there, and he really endeared himself to Kliff Kingsbury in his time there. Became joined his staff. And what's Blau going to bring that's different than Kingsbury, since he was definitely a Kingsbury guy?
When Blau played, he spent some time under Ben Johnson there with Detroit, and I think that's the kind of offense that he likes, he prefers, and I think that's what he sold Washington on. And he's very close with Jayden Daniels, so he's probably got the ear of him to tell him, this is what we want to do with you, this is what we can do with you. I've got experience with it. And so I think you're going to see a lot of you're going to see maybe Terry McLaurin move around in the slot more, which he could have a career year this year. And the running game is more of is a running back committee, but they'll be more committed to the running game than they were under Kingsbury. Sometimes Kingsbury I don't know I don't know that the running game was ever his strength. It's not that he didn't like to run the ball, but I don't know that the running game was exactly his strength. But there are questions the running back position. But then you got the offensive line. You have they're going to went from a gap scheme to a zone scheme, and I think that's going to fit better to what he runs, which is what Ben Johnson ran in Chicago and what he runs. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of what Chicago did and what Detroit did when you see this offense.
You look at the moves in free agency, the idea of run it back, they did not. There were lots of guys who have not returned. They also have gone unsigned as well. So Debo, Marshawn Lattimore, Bobby Wagner retiring, Zach Ertz, Von Miller, Austin Eckler, Noah Brown. They're nowhere. So obviously they weren't necessarily losses. They haven't been picked up with anyway. Who are the guys? Who are the losses that are going to impact the Commanders in 2026?
Honestly, I can't really. The one loss I think that is getting overlooked is the center Tyler Biotish. They cut him right before the free agency started, and everybody was surprised by that because, in the scuttlebutt is they wanted Tyler Linderbaum. They weren't prepared, the Raiders, to just throw the center.
Oh, my gosh.
They weren't prepared for that. They were prepared to make him the highest paid center, I'm sure, probably around $20 million. But they were not, and they were not going to match that offer. So, going back on the film, he did regress last year compared to what he was in 2024. They thought paying him whatever $9-10 million last year when they could pay Nick Allegretti, the veteran, for far less for the same production. They thought it was just a wash, and they could use that cash cap to spend on other players to improve the roster. So that's the one, to me, that's the one that sticks out. I think a player like Zach Ertz, I think he'll be missed, not because of his – I think Chigakonko is going to be an overall net positive for him, but Zach had the trust of Jayden, and they were very close, and he was such a reliable weapon. And I don't know what he's going to be. I know he wants to keep playing. I don't know what his options are, but it'll be 36. But I think they'll miss part of Zach Ertz. They'll miss Bobby Wagner's leadership. Incredible leader, incredible guy. But he was just getting exposed in the middle of that defense. I mean, he was targeted week after week. He racked up tackles, but teams went after him in the passing game.
Yeah. Well, they did remake the linebacker room. They added Leo Chenal, and then we'll talk about the drafts as they landed Sonny Styles. That's a fantastic move for Dan Quinn. But who are the important additions that they made this offseason?
I think you look at the edge rushers. They signed in free agency Odafe Owe and Caleb Chason are going to be impact players. Tim Settle came back to play. He's going to play a big role. He'll be the run stopper up front. I think they're preparing for life after Daron Payne finally. And then at linebacker, you had Chenal and Styles. The speed, I know we're going to get more on the draft later, but the speed in that linebacker core is insane because you went literally from the slowest running back room in the league to maybe the fastest in just one offseason. And it's in the secondary. Nick Cross was probably the biggest acquisition there, the safety from the Colts. Good player. They didn't really they brought in a bunch of corners. They brought in Amik Robertson, good feisty player, play inside, outside. He'll start. And then they brought in Akello Witherspoon and Rasul Douglas last week, veterans, just to fill out the room with I think it's going to be better than it was. That room will be better than it was last year because it's just veteran guys who won't embarrass you. And they're counting on Sainer Steele and Trey Amos to take another step forward. But offensively, I think the big addition would be Chigakonko, and Rachaad White's getting a lot of praise this offseason for he can catch passes out of the backfield. He can carry the ball. He's good in pass protection. He'll kind of replace the Austin Eckler role. I'm not sure he's Austin Eckler, prime Austin Eckler, but I think he can play that role for him. But they had several quality pickups in my opinion. It's all about how they fit within this scheme, but it seems like they have a good plan in place.
Yeah, and then we go to the draft where the big haul obviously was Sonny Styles. I didn't know. I in my mock draft, I was surprised he lasted till 7, but I knew if he made it to 7 that Dan Quinn would scoop it up in a heartbeat. He's a perfect transition, a big might be the best player in this draft, the most impactful player in this draft. You go from Bobby Wagner to Sonny Styles, and then adding Chanel. You've got a very athletic duo. Is he going to be is he going to be the quarterback of that defense immediately?
I think so. In OTAs and minicamp, they already had him wearing the green dot. Not that they had already given it to him; they were just testing him with it. And his aptitude, I mean, he's honestly the perfect prospect. He's a good kid. He's a football IQ is off the charts. He's productive. He had a productive college career. His size and athleticism. I mean, honestly, if you talk about in baseball a 5-tool prospect, and then you talk about football, Sonny's that guy. He's only 21. He's played safety. He can cover. He can rush a passer. He can do everything. I think you're going to see him. He will assume that green dot, and I think he does it week one, and he never looks back. I think he's my two favorite players in this draft last year were and I'm not saying this because we're talking, were Sonny Styles and Jeremiah Love. Those were my two favorite players in this entire draft class, and so Washington to get Sonny at number 7, I think was huge.
Yeah. No second round pick, but in round 3, they go Clemson receiver Antonio Williams. They get edge guy Joshua Joseph out of Tennessee, Katron Allen out of Penn State, round 6, offensive lineman Matt Goldman, round 6 as well out of Michigan State, and then a quarterback I'd never heard of out of Rutgers in round 7. Has anyone outside of Styles expected to make an impact in this first year?
Antonio Williams he may start, and part of that, I think people are going to say it's because they don't have enough at receiver, which is true. But I think they're even if they don't add a big name, I mean, Brandon Ayuk, that stuff's been going over like crazy. That's not going. We are pretty dull. That's not going to happen now. And then you have Stephon Diggs. I just don't know that they're going to sign Stephon Diggs. I really don't see it. I think they're going to go into camp content with what they have because they really did make the room deeper. Like you brought back Treylon Burks, a former first-round pick of the Titans. He actually, in the short time he was there last year, he was actually impressive, 6'2", 225. And they brought down.
Got to stay healthy, man. Burks, that's been his bugaboo.
That is, and they got De'Ami Brown back, and I think De'Ami's never going to be what they originally thought when they drafted him in 2021. But he's a good player, and he seemed to really catch on when in 2024 when he played with Jayden and under Kliff, and Kliff deserves credit for that too because that's where he took off under Kliff. But they bring in De'Ami back, and I think that's a good move. They brought in Van Jefferson for depth. You can't go wrong with Jefferson as a 4th or 5th receiver. And then they got young players like Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey, who both will make the roster. Young, talented guys who they're just waiting to step up. Lane's a phenomenal punt returner. Luke was a great kick returner before he got hurt. Luke was ascending last year as a receiver, so I don't see them at this point. I would have said differently 3 weeks ago, and every day before that, I would say they're still going to add somebody like Brandon Ayuk would have been the guy probably until he talked himself out of it. But I think they're going to see what they have. They could still add a receiver, but I think they're happy with what they have.
All right. Coming up next on the Rise of Sierra podcast, Best of Cardinals Talk on the Web. Let's look ahead to the 2026 season. What are the reasonable expectations for the Commanders bouncing back after their 5-12 season? That's coming up next on Rise of Sierra.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
We're back on the Rise of Sierra podcast, Best of Cardinals Talk of the Web. 2026, Jayden Daniels healthy, new offensive system, changes on defense. But we must say this, after a tough season last year, the NFC East is always winnable because usually, with the exception, and maybe this year it's different with the Giants under John Harbaugh, 2 to 3 teams every year are really even. And so they're neither great elite, but they're not bad. And so they're all pretty good. It makes it a real winnable division. You do start the season on the road in division games. That's not an easy thing to do. On the road in Philly, on the road in Dallas, and so you kind of get to set the tone early. And then on top of that, you add Seattle and San Francisco in the first 6 weeks before the bye. And I'm guessing that first 6 weeks might kind of set the tone for the whole season for y'all.
Absolutely. So when you look at those first 6 games, you look at it like the first 2 on the road, Philly and Dallas. I mean, that's just brutal to start the year. And then they had this really weird thing the last couple of years where they played in like the last 4 weeks were all 4 division games, including Philadelphia in weeks 16 and 18. And then now this year it's weeks 1 and 2. This really weird scheduling, but
it is
in weeks 1 and 2, you have those 2. Then you got Seattle at home, and then you got to go to London in week 4. And then you don't get a bye week. You come home in week 5 and host another division game and improved Giants team. And then week 6, you're on the road on Monday Night Football. That's a brutal schedule. And if they can survive, honestly, if they go 2 and 4, they're okay at 2 and 4. I would think. I mean, it should let up a little bit after that. But I mean, you look at these teams now, and not everybody's who you think they're going to be. Looking at it now, a couple months ahead of time, everything's always different. I mean, we look at Washington 2024. Nobody saw that coming, but I think they're going to surprise some people. If they can somehow get one of those 2 games to kick on the road to start the year, they're going to be fine, I believe. And obviously winning that game in London and beating the Giants at home, those are critical games, because going to San Francisco in week 6 will be a tough one, the West Coast trip and everything. So, yeah, I believe but you was talking about the division being winnable. I still think the division's winnable. I don't think Philly's going to be the same team this year. I mean, we saw it last year. They were already losing it. They have a terrible head coach. I mean, the GM, it shows you the genius of how good of a GM Howie Roseman is, that bum can win a Super Bowl. But, you know, it's they lost.
Tell us how you really feel about Nick Sirianni.
Now, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of him as a coach or as a person. I think if he got fired tomorrow, I don't know that he gets another head coaching job. I really don't. And that's saying something for a Super Bowl coach.
Yeah.
But he ran off Jeff Stoutland, who was the great offensive line coach, lost him. So their offensive lineman's already showing signs of, Lane Johnson's a future Hall of Famer. He's 36, missed a lot of time last year. Landon Dickerson, who plays guard, who's one of the best guards in the league, he's thinking about retirement this offseason. He's young because of injuries. That offensive line has been their strength, and it's starting to show signs, and they lost their Hall of Fame coach there. And the defense will be good, though. The defense is still going to be phenomenal. They got Fangio's back, and most of the group's back on D. I think the defense will be they still have an average quarterback in Jalen Hurts, so they still have what I call a fullback at quarterback, so they still have him. But they got Saquon. But I think the loss of A.J. Brown's a big one. I know they got Mekhi Lemon in the draft, but A.J. Brown was, to me, when he was on, was a top 5 receiver. And then Dallas, I think Dallas is probably if I was picking today, I would pick Dallas to win a division. And I think their defense is
if that defense is better, that they'll they're offensively, if Dak's healthy, they produce offensively.
Yeah, we know he'll lose in the wild card round, but I mean, but they'll get there. I think they can win the division, and I really think they got the best team. And I think Washington could win the division. And heck, I'm not sure. I wouldn't say the Giants can do it this year.
I think some Harbaugh magic can make them a wild card team.
Maybe. And maybe. I think I don't know that I'm 100% sold on Dart as a quarterback yet.
He's going to struggle with his health.
Yeah,
because he's reckless when he plays.
Very, very reckless.
He's reckless when he plays.
And I in the Washington game there late in the year, I mean, he was going against one of the worst defenses and maybe the worst. And there were wide open receivers, and he was airmailing wide open receivers that whole game. I'm like, that was a bad sign to me. I mean, that's just my eyes. I'm not saying he can't be good. I hope he is good for them. I think Washington and Giants fans kind of stick together against the other 2 teams. So, we don't hate. Most Washington fans don't hate the Giants too bad, but yeah, I think
not while they're where they're at right now. It's,
no, but yeah, like you said, once the top of the division, I'm sure when Washington is at the top of the division with Jayden Daniels, something they'll hate them.
So tell me, if you're thinking floor ceiling, what's a reasonable floor and a reasonable ceiling for this team in 2026?
The ceiling, I think it's a up to 11 wins could be the ceiling, no more than that. I think realistically, nine wins. Realistically, I think the floor for this team's 7. I don't think they could. I don't think they'll finish worse than 7 or 10. So you're looking at a 7 to 11 win team. I tend to think they're going to go about 9 and 8. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to get in the playoffs.
Now, the NFC's tough with both the NFC North and the NFC West. It's loaded from at least the NFC North is loaded from top to bottom, and then the NFC West is just loaded except for the Cardinals.
Yeah. So, I think so. I don't think 9 and 8 will get it done. I think you may, this could be the year you might have to win 11 games to get in the wild card. But
yeah. How do Commanders fans view the Week 12 game against the Cardinals? Is that granted on the road? Is that one that they chalk up? Yeah, definitely should win. Is it a toss-up game? Likely win, but questionable, or is that viewed as a team that'll be tough for them based on what they did last year?
I think if you ask the fanboys who just think everything's great, I think they view it as a easy game. I don't see it that way. I don't know how you're coming off 5-12. You're in no better position than the Cardinals. So every game's tough, and it's another tough. It's on
the road. It's in Arizona.
You're facing. I mean, by that time it won't be as much. It's a new coaching staff there, but it won't be so much an unknown by week 12. But
correct.
But I think the Cardinals could be a tough, because it looks like they're building up to run the heck out of the football. So you better be able to stop the run if you're going to face. So no, I don't think most Washington fans view any game right now as a layup. I really don't, especially a road game across the country. There'll be some who think a 1-16 Washington team could win 16 games for whatever reason, but they're not living in reality. They're the ones who defend Brandon Ayuk and everything he does. So,
well, Brandon Ayuk in his right mind is a dang good player, but there's no guarantee you're getting, like, once he's out of San Francisco, like, there's still you still have to question what he's doing. You have to worry about that for the locker room. All right.
It blows my mind that he had everything in front of him. If he would have just applied for reinstatement, showed up for mandatory minicamp, he could have forced their hand.
Yeah.
But he refuses to. No. I'm like, you're never going. And had he done that, all this social media stuff probably wouldn't have happened, because he would have been gone, and he could be in Washington. But he's probably
chilling with his bro Jayden Daniels.
Yeah.
I will say this: it's I hate to say it, as an Arizona State guy myself, you hate to see Brandon Ayuk, who is one of the fantastic prospects to come out of Arizona State, to see him jump off into the deep end like that. I'm like, what are you doing, man? You're making the Sun Devils look bad.
Yeah,
as it was, Jayden Daniels, he goes and wins a Heisman for LSU after he did, because when his time at Arizona State, he was the same player every year. He never really improved his time as Arizona State. His freshman year, he was so exciting, but he was exactly the same player for the next 2 years after that. And then he goes and wins a freaking Heisman. Come on.
That would be frustrating as an Arizona State fan. We had this.
We might see that happen again with Sam Levitt, who's now at LSU.
Oh,
too.
Jeez.
Good man. Well, okay, Bryan, I really thank you for the time. That'll wrap up this edition of the Rise Up Here podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. You can catch Bryan's work over at the Commander's Wire. Do you have anything else cooking other than what you got over there on the site?
No, I cover Virginia Tech athletics for Gobbler Country over at SB Nation. But other than that, that's about it.
All right. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for the time. We'll probably reconnect later, closer to that Week 12 matchup. But until we've still got more shows over the next several weeks that are covering the opponents, that are covering training camp, NFC West rankings with Seth Cox again. But until our next show, thanks for listening. As always, we'll be back again soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise up, See Red.
Rise up! Rise up! Rise up! Rise up!
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.